Hello and welcome everyone again to another video. In today's video, we're going to talk about the top teams in the Retro Cup, which used to be my all-time favorite cup. I think now Fantasy Cup is my favorite. Retro is in the top 3. It's so freaking good of a cup. It's basically, I think, no dark, no steel, no fairy. And that's what makes it one of the best cups in the entire game. There is literally nothing called hard counter in this cup. No dark, no steel, no fairy type. And it's a great league format. So many things that you could use and literally be as busted as you may hope. Because, you know, you can use fighters. There is no fairy to counter that fighters, right? Well, there is hypno, there is the psychic types. But, I mean, if it's I don't know, a psycho cut fast move wise, it's you know, it's not that big of a deal. So if you take a look at the eligible Pokemon, so many of them now. Kwak, you're out. Okay, Gastrodon, you're out. So many Pokemons that you could use in this cup. You could use something like Hackerman, Hackmo. You could use Medi with Psycho Cut. You could just use Cresselia. Cresselia is so busted in this cup. But people say that Oranguru is just better than Cresselia in this cup because this season they buffed Confusion. Confusion is a better fast move. Also, it has a brutal swing, so it can beat something like Cresselia. But honestly, Cresselia has always been the secret OP Pokemon in this cup. People will be like, oh my god, yeah, Cresselia is not that good. And then you go and watch top 10 in the leaderboard battles, everyone is using Cresselia. Lapras is number 2 Pokemon in this cup. Because number 1 is Regidrago. What makes Regidrago so busted? Well, they buffed Vice Grip. It has a Dragon Charge move and it has a Dragon Breath. And there is no steel to resist the dragon damage. There is no fairy to resist the dragon damage. So dragons are so freaking busted. I will give you a joke that we used to say in this cup. Dragons here in this cup beats a Frostlass because dragons have a cheaper like access to their charge moves nowadays, and they outpace Frostlass, the charge move, and because of that, the dragons actually beat Frostlass in this cup. Licky is so busted, and the dragon I'm talking about here is Gudra because Gudra has Aqua Tail. Gudra gets an Aqua Tail in like 4.5 seconds, while like Frostlass get to an Avalanche in 6 seconds, and then 6 seconds, and then 5. So Gudra always outpace that. So that's why Gudra is actually a freaking busted Pokemon. And then you have something like Archetypes. Archetypes has Avalanche. And it's like a dragon that takes neutral damage from ice, and which makes it also able to beat Frostlass in this cup. It's also so freaking good against something like Dugong. Is that all we could think of? Well, technically, you could still use Vigoroth. Dragonair is so good. Some people used to use Beedrill, but honestly, I never had success with it. But the Pokemon that actually is so busted in this cup, it's actually Kingdra, and that used to be even before Kingdra get access to Surf. Now with the Surf, you could imagine. Shadow Gyarados is the most fun Pokemon in this cup. Now, enough yapping about Pokemons. Let's talk about the top teams. And the top 3 PvPok team is actually a very solid, very nasty team that you could just use in this cup and get like so much success with. And that's literally Regidrago, Lapras, and Oranguru. So Oranguru is running Confusion, Brutal Swing, and Trailblazer. The Trailblazer is so good because it's just gonna ramp up the Confusion damage. And then you have Lapras, you know, Psywave, Sparkling Aria, Ice Beam, or Skull Bash. I'm a fan of Skull Bash, okay? Don't guys tell anyone. And that's like what makes this team so freaking strong, because it's just has very decent bulk, above average on everything, and it has so good of a fast move damage and so good of charge move pressure as well. But PvPok is kind of a fan of Celio in this cup, so that's why like Celio is kind of like a hidden Pokemon on PvPok. PvPok will always suggest a Celio for you. Why Celio? Well, I would say PvPok loves Celio over Lapras, but I think Lapras is just a straight better, honestly. But also remember that Celio also has Surf nowadays, so there is a chance that you might need like the powder snow damage. If you need the powder snow damage, that's how I say it, go with Celio. If you don't care about the powder snow damage and you think that Ice Beam is enough, you can go with Lapras. And remember that Jellicent is the best counter to Lapras and Celio. So if there is a Pokemon that could destroy those two, it's actually Jellicent. Another solid team that I think is going to be all around everywhere in this cup is, as again, Lapras Regidrago is I think Lapras Regidrago is basically the best core, and then the third is up to you, but I recommend having a third that does beat Cresselia and Oranguru, because those will be everywhere, and that's where like Crustle chime in as the strongest counter to those two, because you know Fury Cutter is super effective against Psychic. I know you guys don't know. I knew just recently that Fury Cutter, that Psychic type are weak to Bug. I don't know why. I don't know what's the logic behind it. I think it's just a made up because they figured out that Psychic has no weaknesses technically outside Dark. What does Crustle have? It has access to Rock Wrecker, so make sure you don't have Rock Blast, guys, please. Last time I used the Crustle, I was like, Crustle is so high on PvP, let me just use it. And then I was like, Rock Blast Scissor I had. I'm like, how is it good? Rock Blast sucks. And I'm like, oh wait, I need Rock Wrecker. So yeah. This is why this team has like kind of a viability in this cup. If you're like a Kingdra fan, I think Shadow Kingdra has a good chance of being a busted Pokemon in this cup. But another Pokemon that people actually use is Dusclops. Why Dusclops and when Dusclops? Well, you use a Cresselia over Dusclops if people are using Oranguru. You use Dusclops if people are using Cresselia, because Dusclops does super effective Shadow Punch and hacks to Cresselia, but those two moves are resisted by Oranguru. Remember, Oranguru, it's Psychic, but it's also normal, which means it still resists the Psychic damage. Now, a Pokemon that people forget in this cup, it's actually Clodsire. Clodsire is, I think, the tankiest Pokemon. Well, or the second tankiest Pokemon in this cup. Now, yes, it's weak to Oranguru, but that doesn't change the fact that it still beats so many Pokemons. It's so freaking good in the Zero Shield. So a Pokemon like Primeape, where like Primeape loves 2 shields, right? So you need to pair it with something that doesn't take shields. So that's why we pair it with things like Cresselia and Clodsire. Those two don't care about shields, so you use those two as like just like soak as much damage as possible, leave your opponent as low HP as possible, and then counter them down. So you karate chop them down, and then you start spamming these Rage Fists. Now, the most fun part about this cup is that you could run triple of the same typing, okay? You will see triple Dragon teams. What's a good triple Dragon teams? I think this is a must. This is kind of a must. The third, I think the must Pokemon is going to be Shadow Gyarados, because Gyarados doesn't take super effective from Ice, same as Kendra. And you could also use a Sligo. I think Sligo like get access to Dragon Breath as far as I'm aware this season, right? So it's a fun Pokemon to use, but I would say it's a must to run Kendra and Gyarados, or at least one of those two. But a Chad would run actually triple normal, because Oranguru is a beast of a Pokemon. Licky is a beast of a Pokemon. Now, you could use either of these as a third. You could even use any normal type that has decent coverage, decent charge moves. I think that Girafarig is actually one of the best, most underrated Pokemons, because think of the combination with like Psychic Fang, Confusion, and Trailblaze. You can either drop their defense or boost your damage, and it's a Shadow Pokemon, so it does lots of damage from the fast move. And then if you go to the Triple Ice team, Arctibax with Obama Snow and any of these as a third is actually going to be nuts. This team kind of gets soloed by a fighter, but fighters are kind of bad, like really bad, because counter is bad and Karate Chop just doesn't do enough damage. So you could abuse that fact, and you could also just put a Jellicent here instead, something that can beat Primeape as a third. If we go back to the Triple Dragon, as I said, you know, like this is the team we suggested as a Triple Dragon. But I think this Triple Dragon is kind of a better version, because those two don't take super effective from Ice, okay? And they hit hard enough, and as a third, you could literally choose any dragon in the game. Literally anything. It doesn't, like, you could just be Altaria. It also could be something like, what's the name of this Pokemon? Dragalge. So yeah, I try to keep it as short and straight to the point, so you guys don't get, you know, don't waste your time here. Thanks so much for watching. If you guys remember, if you like this content, make sure to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.